Hi, I'm Emily. Today, I'm going to read you the story of Goldie, which is titled like this. I paid $7,200 to help my sister and her family move to another state. Then she texted, "You're not invited to the farewell party. This is for real family only." So, I canceled her access to my account and broke her lease. The next morning, I was woken up by a knock. Well, let's go. I'm Goldie, 35 years old, and I work as a dentist at a private clinic downtown. The pay is decent, more than decent, actually. I've worked hard to get where I am. Spent years in school, and now I finally have the life I always wanted. I bought my own house 3 years ago. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. 2 bedrooms and what used to be an office that I turned into my personal library. Books everywhere, floor to ceiling. It's my sanctuary. My older sister Emily is 38 and works part-time at a grocery store. She's got 2 kids, Emma, who's 10, and Jake, who's 8. Great kids, really. Emily's husband, Tom, works at this small furniture factory across town. His paycheck depends on how many orders they get. So, some months are good and others, well, let's just say Emily calls me when things get tight. And I never say no. Family is family, right? That's what I always thought anyway. Our parents live in this tiny 2-bedroom apartment that feels even smaller when we're all there together. Dad's retired from the post office. Mom worked at a school cafeteria until her arthritis got too bad. They get by on their pensions, but just barely. Every Sunday, we do family dinner at Mom and Dad's place. It's chaos. Emma and Jake running around. Tom and Dad arguing about football. Emily and Mom catching up on neighborhood gossip. The apartment gets loud and crowded, but I love it. Or I used to love it. This particular Sunday started like any other. I drove over after finishing some paperwork at the clinic. I brought Mom her favorite cookies from the bakery near my office. When I walked in, everyone was already there. Emily was helping Mom in the kitchen. Tom was on the couch with Dad watching some game. And the kids were sprawled on the floor with their tablets. But something felt different. The air was thick, like before a storm. Emily barely looked at me when I said hello. Tom didn't even grunt his usual greeting. Even the kids seemed quieter than usual. What's going on? I asked Mom, handing her the cookie box. She just shook her head and kept stirring whatever was in the pot. Ask your sister. I found Emily in the living room, arms crossed, staring at the TV without really watching it. Emily, what happened? She turned to me, and I could see she'd been crying. Tom's company went under. They filed for bankruptcy last week. My stomach dropped. Oh no, I'm so sorry. But he'll find something else, right? There are other furniture places. No, Tom's voice was sharp. He hadn't taken his eyes off the TV. There aren't any other furniture factories around here. They all moved overseas or shut down. I sat down carefully, like I was walking through a minefield. Well, maybe for now you could look at something else. Just temporarily until I'm not doing anything else. Tom finally looked at me, and his face was hard. I'm a furniture maker. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing for 15 years. I try to keep my voice gentle. I know, but maybe just for a few months. Actually, the director at my clinic mentioned they need someone to do maintenance work, fix equipment, take care of the grounds, that kind of thing. It pays well, and there's full benefits. Tom cut me off. I'm not going to be some errand boy. I'm a craftsman. It's not being an errand boy, I said. It's honest work, and the pay is actually really good. Dr. Martinez said I said no. The room went quiet except for the TV. Even the kids looked up from their tablets. I wanted to point out that at the furniture factory, Tom had plenty of days with no orders where he just sat around. At the clinic, he'd actually have steady work and steady pay. But I kept my mouth shut. That's when Emily spoke up, her voice calm as ice water. Until Tom finds something in his field, you're going to have to support us. My mouth went dry. How much are we talking about? $2,000 a month should cover it. I actually choked on the water I was drinking. $2,000 every month for who knows how long. Emily, I've helped you guys out before when you asked, but this is different. I can't or won't. Her voice was getting louder. Tom, tell her what we talked about. Tom finally muted the TV. Your sister thinks since you don't have a family of your own, you should help us out. It's not like you have kids to worry about. The words hit me like a slap. I looked around the room at Mom, who was pretending to be busy in the kitchen but was obviously listening, at Dad, who was suddenly very interested in his hands, at the kids, who were watching us like we were a TV show. I'm not refusing to help, I said slowly. I offered Tom a job. A good job. If you won't take it, that's not an emergency. That's a choice. Emily's face went red. Mom, tell her. Mom appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. Goldie, your sister needs help. You don't have children. You don't have a husband to support. It's time you stopped being so selfish and helped your family. Selfish. The word echoed in my head. I'm not being selfish. I'm being rational. I offered help in the form of a job, and it was rejected. I can't support people who won't help themselves. Tom stood up. Come on, Emily. Get the kids. We're leaving. They left without saying goodbye to me. Mom and Dad spent the next hour telling me how disappointed they were, how family was supposed to stick together, how I was being cruel and heartless. I drove home in silence, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I got to my house, I sat in my library surrounded by all my books and wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I should have just said yes. But Tom could work. He was choosing not to. And that felt like the real problem to me. 2 weeks passed without a single phone call from my family. And honestly, I was relieved. Before that dinner from hell, my phone rang constantly. Emily calling to ask for grocery money. Mom calling to tell me Emily needed help with the electric bill. Dad calling to say Tom's car needed repairs and could I pitch in. But now silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. I went to work, came home, read my books, watched Netflix without interruption. I didn't have to worry about my phone buzzing with another request for money. I didn't have to feel guilty every time I bought myself something nice. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I threw myself into work, took on extra patients, started that online continuing education course I'd been putting off. I even reorganized my entire library at home, sorting books by author instead of subject. It felt good to focus on my own life for once. But of course, it couldn't last forever. The call came on a Tuesday evening. I was curled up on my couch with a cup of tea and a mystery novel when my phone rang. Emily's name flashed on the screen. My stomach immediately knotted up. I almost didn't answer. My finger hovered over the decline button, but curiosity won out. Hello, Goldie. Emily's voice was different. Not angry like last time, but not exactly warm either. We need to talk. Can you come over to Mom and Dad's? Please. The please did it. Emily never said please unless something was really wrong. I sighed and looked at my cozy evening. Fine, give me 30 minutes. The drive to my parents' place felt longer than usual. I kept wondering what they wanted. More money, obviously. But for what? Maybe Tom had finally swallowed his pride and taken a job somewhere. Maybe they were going to apologize for the way they'd treated me. When I knocked on the door, Dad answered. Emily, Tom, and the kids were all sitting on the couch like they were posing for a family portrait. Mom was in her chair, knitting needles clicking away. Everyone looked at me when I walked in. Tom cleared his throat. I found a job. My eyebrows went up. Oh, that's great. Where? Arizona, Phoenix area. There's a custom furniture company there. High-end stuff. My buddy Rick from trade school works there now. He put in a good word for me. I felt a flicker of genuine happiness for them. That's wonderful, Tom. When do you start? As soon as we can get out there, Emily said. But that's the problem. Here it comes, I thought. What problem? Emily looked at Tom, then back at me. We don't have the money to move. $7,200. I blinked. What? Tom started ticking items off on his fingers. Moving truck for all our stuff. First month's rent and security deposit on an apartment. Then we need money to live on until I get my first paycheck, gas to drive out there, deposits for utilities. Part of me wanted to laugh. 2 weeks ago, they demanded $2,000 a month indefinitely. Now they wanted over $7,000 all at once. But another part of me was doing the math. If they moved to Arizona, I'd never have to deal with constant requests for money again. $7,000 for permanent peace and quiet. Maybe that was actually a bargain. If I give you this money, I said slowly, this is it. No more asking me for help. You're on your own after this. Emily nodded quickly. Of course. Tom will be making good money out there. We won't need help anymore. I looked at Tom. And you're sure about this job? Rick says they're growing fast. Lots of wealthy people in Phoenix want custom stuff. The pay is almost double what I was making here. Okay. The word came out before I could stop it. I'll set up a separate account and transfer the money there. You can access it for the move. Emily jumped up and hugged me. Thank you, Goldie. Thank you so much. Mom was smiling for the first time in weeks. I knew you'd come through for your family. The rest of the evening actually went well. Emily and Mom started planning a farewell party, talking about inviting all the aunts and uncles. The kids got excited about living somewhere warm where they could swim year-round. Tom seemed more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. We should have the party this weekend, Mom said. Give everyone time to come say goodbye. That sounds perfect, Emily said. Goldie, you'll help with the preparations, right? Sure, I said, already thinking about how to arrange the bank transfer. Whatever you need. I left that night feeling cautiously optimistic. Maybe this was how it was supposed to work out. Maybe Tom would thrive in Arizona, and Emily would be happy, and I could have my life back without feeling guilty about it. The next day, I called my bank and set up the additional account like I promised. I transferred the $7,200 and gave Emily the login information. She called me immediately to thank me again. I can't believe this is really happening, she said. Oh, and Goldie, I need to ask you one more favor. My heart sank a little. What? The lease needs to be signed by someone with good credit. Tom's credit got messed up when the furniture company went under. Could you sign the lease? It's just a formality. I thought about it. I had good credit. And if Tom really was getting this job, they'd be able to pay the rent. Okay, but just this once. You're the best sister ever, Emily said. I called my realtor friend Janet and asked her to help me navigate renting an apartment in another state. She handled everything online, and by the next afternoon, I'd signed the lease and transferred the deposit from the account I'd set up for Emily. Everything seemed to be falling into place. The farewell party was planned for Saturday evening. Emily was busy organizing everything. Tom was coordinating with his new job. The kids were packing their favorite toys. I was actually looking forward to the party. It felt like we were ending on a good note, like maybe our family could go back to being a family instead of me being everyone's personal ATM. Friday couldn't come fast enough. I was actually excited about the farewell party. I bought a nice bottle of wine and a card for Emily and Tom. The party was supposed to be that evening, and I planned to go straight there after work. I was in the middle of a routine cleaning when my phone buzzed. I saw the notification pop up, a text from Emily, but I was busy with my patient and couldn't check it. I figured she was probably just confirming the time or asking me to pick up something for the party. I finished with my patient, washed my hands, and finally picked up my phone to read the message. It made my blood freeze. You're not invited to tonight's party. This is for real family, only people who actually support each other. I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. My hands started shaking. I called her immediately. What the hell is this text about? I said when she picked up. Her voice was ice cold. Exactly what it says. You're not welcome tonight. Are you insane? I just gave you $7,200 only because you want us gone. You want us as far away as possible so you don't have to deal with us anymore. My mouth fell open. That's not true, isn't it? You refused to help us when we needed monthly support. You made it clear that Tom wasn't good enough for the job you offered. You've always looked down on us. I was so angry I could barely speak. I offered Tom a real job with good pay and benefits. He turned it down because he was too proud. And yes, I helped you move because I thought it would be good for your family. Emily laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You helped us move because you're selfish and you envy me. You envy that I have a husband and children and you don't. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. That's not true. Sure it is. You've always been jealous that I have a real family while you're all alone in that house with your books. Well, tonight is for people who actually care about each other, not people who think money solves everything. She hung up. I sat there in my office, staring at my phone. My eyes were burning with tears, but I was too angry to cry. I immediately called my mother's number. It went straight to voicemail. 15 minutes later, I got a text from Mom. I agree with Emily. Don't come tonight. I drove home in a rage, my mind spinning. They didn't want me at the party. Fine. But they weren't getting my money either. The first thing I did when I got home was log into the bank account I'd set up for Emily. Most of the money was still there. They'd used some for the moving company deposit, but there was still over $6,000 left. I blocked Emily's access immediately. Then I called Janet, my realtor friend. Janet, I need you to call that apartment owner in Arizona. I want to cancel the lease I signed. What happened? Family drama. Can you ask him if he'll let me out of the contract? I'll explain that there was a misunderstanding. I'll call him right now. While I waited, I opened that bottle of wine I'd bought for the party and poured myself a large glass. Then I sat in my library and tried to calm down. Janet called back an hour later. Good news, the owner is really understanding. He said, these things happen with family moves. He's canceling the lease with no penalties, and he'll return the full deposit. Thank you so much. After we hung up, I blocked everyone's phone numbers. Emily, Tom, Mom, Dad, all of them. I knew they'd be calling once they realized what I'd done, and I didn't want to hear it. I spent the rest of the evening in my quiet house with my wine and my books. No party, no family, no drama, just peace. For the first time in weeks, I slept well. Saturday morning, I woke up to someone pounding on my front door. Loud, aggressive knocking that had probably been going on for a while. I looked out the window and saw all of them. Mom, Dad, Emily, Tom, even the kids. They looked furious. I knew I couldn't avoid this conversation. I opened the door, and they pushed their way into my house without being invited. You blocked the account, Emily screamed before she was even all the way inside. Yes, I did. We're supposed to move today. The truck is coming this morning. I shrugged. Not my problem. Tom stepped forward. You can't do this. I'm supposed to start work next week. You should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't family. Mom was shaking her head. Goldie, this is terrible. Even for you, this is vindictive. Vindictive. I laughed. You all told me I wasn't real family. You uninvited me from the party. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. I'm not your family, so I'm not your ATM either. Emily sat down on my couch without permission. I'm not leaving until you fix this. Then I'm calling the police. Dad held up his hands. Now wait just a minute, no. I pointed toward the door. All of you, get out of my house now. Tom was turning red. You know what kind of position this puts us in? I already accepted the job. Should have treated me better then. Emily was crying now. Please, Goldie. We're desperate. We already gave notice on our apartment. We have nowhere to go. Oh, and by the way, I said, feeling a cold satisfaction, I also canceled the lease on the Arizona apartment. So, even if you had the money, you'd have nowhere to move to. The silence that followed was deafening. They all stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then everyone started yelling at once. Emily screaming that I was evil. Tom shouting about his job. Mom crying about how I was destroying the family. Dad trying to play peacemaker. I just smiled and pointed to the door again. Get out. I'm not leaving, Emily said, crossing her arms. Fine, I'm calling 911. I picked up my phone and started dialing. They all scrambled for the door, muttering curses and threats. This isn't over, Emily shouted from my driveway. I closed the door and locked it. Then I poured myself another glass of wine, even though it was only 10 o'clock in the morning. It felt like the best decision I'd made in years. The weeks that followed were the quietest of my adult life. I threw myself into work with renewed energy, took on extra patients, started that dental conference presentation I'd been putting off for months, even signed up for a weekend seminar on new implant techniques. It felt good to focus on my career again instead of constantly worrying about my family's finances. At home, I reorganized my entire library again. This time, I arranged the books by publication date, which was probably overkill, but it gave me something to do with my hands while my mind processed everything that had happened. I also started cooking more elaborate meals for myself, something I hadn't done in years when I was always worried about the next financial emergency. About 3 weeks after the confrontation at my house, I ran into Lisa Chen at the grocery store. Lisa was Emily's friend from high school, someone I'd known peripherally for years. She worked at the bank downtown and always seemed to know everyone's business. "Oh, Goldie," she said when she saw me in the produce section. "I heard about what happened with Emily and Tom." I tensed up, waiting for the lecture about family loyalty or how I should have been more understanding. Instead, Lisa lowered her voice and moved closer. "I heard they had to move in with your parents. All 6 of them in that tiny apartment." I picked up a bag of apples, trying to keep my expression neutral. "Really?" "Yeah. Tom couldn't find the money to move to Arizona. After all, he ended up taking a job as a loader at that warehouse on Industrial Boulevard. Emily's been complaining to everyone about how his back hurts from all the heavy lifting." I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. Satisfaction because Tom could have avoided this whole mess by taking the maintenance job I'd offered him at the clinic. Guilt because I knew how much he'd been looking forward to that furniture job in Arizona. "And Emily?" I asked despite myself. Lisa made a face. "She's been telling everyone who'll listen about how you sabotaged their move out of spite. Says you're jealous of her family and wanted to keep them trapped here." The guilt evaporated instantly. "Is that so? Most people aren't buying it, though. I mean, everyone knows you've been helping them financially for years." And when she tells the story, she always leaves out the part about uninviting you from the party. I nodded and started to move away, but Lisa touched my arm. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Emily's always expected everyone else to solve her problems. Maybe this will teach her some independence." I thanked Lisa and finished my shopping, but her words stuck with me. Was I really doing the right thing, or was I just being petty and vindictive like Mom had said? That evening, I sat in my library with a glass of wine and really thought about it. Yes, I was hurt by Emily's words about not being real family. Yes, I was angry about being uninvited from the party after providing all that money. But was my reaction proportional? Tom was now doing manual labor that hurt his back instead of working his dream job in Arizona. Emily and the kids were crammed into my parents' small apartment instead of having their own place. My parents were dealing with the stress of 4 extra people in their home. But then I remembered Tom's face when he rejected my job offer. The dismissive way he'd called it being an errand boy. Emily's cold calculation when she demanded $2,000 a month. Mom's words about me being selfish because I didn't have children. They'd made their choices. Tom chose pride over practical employment. Emily chose to attack me instead of being grateful for the help I'd offered. Mom chose to side with Emily instead of seeing both sides of the situation. I'd offered real help in the form of a steady job with good pay and benefits. When that was rejected, I'd offered help with the move to Arizona. When I was told I wasn't family, I'd acted accordingly. Maybe I was being vindictive, but I was done being everyone's safety net while being treated like an ATM instead of a sister. The guilt faded as the weeks turned into months. I started dating again, something I hadn't done in years because I was always too stressed about family drama to focus on my own life. I joined a book club at the local library. I even took a pottery class on weekends. My house felt like a home again instead of just a place to sleep between family crises. I could buy things for myself without calculating whether Emily might need help with rent that month. I could make plans without worrying about emergency phone calls. Occasionally, I'd wonder how they were all doing. Were the kids adjusting okay to sharing a room at their grandparents' house? Was Tom's back really bothering him, or was that just Emily being dramatic? Had my parents' health suffered from the added stress and chaos? But I never called to find out. And they never called me. Sometimes I'd see people I knew around town, former neighbors, old family friends, and I could tell from their expressions that they'd heard some version of the story. Some looked at me with sympathy, others with judgment. I learned not to care either way. The truth was complicated, like most family situations. We were all probably right and wrong in different ways, but I was tired of being the only one expected to compromise, to sacrifice, to fix everything with my money. I didn't know if we'd ever reconcile. Maybe someday Emily would realize that I'd been trying to help in the best way I knew how. Maybe Mom would understand that I wasn't obligated to financially support able-bodied adults who chose not to work. Maybe Tom would acknowledge that his pride had cost his family a real opportunity. Or maybe none of that would happen. Maybe we'd stay estranged forever. And maybe that was okay too. I was 35 years old with a successful career, a house I loved, and for the first time in years, complete control over my own life. I had friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. I had hobbies and interests and goals that had nothing to do with anyone else's problems. If that made me selfish, I could live with it.